Welcome y bienvenidos to this episode of Love Learning You. I'm your hostess, Justine Gonzalez. Let's get into this episode 98 of Love Learning You. I cannot wait to share with you all. I have a gift at the end of it for anybody who watches this video. And number one, I'm going to start with a question, and then I'm going to give you 3 quick and effective strategies to actually boost your mindfulness, and that will help you become more aware of the different things that are triggering your stress levels. I know it very well, and I'm going to share a little bit after I share this question with you to get us going. And the question that I have been pondering is this: what do you seek most? Mindfulness or mindlessness? When it's mindful, what are you filling that mind with? When it's mindless, perhaps it's intentional. Perhaps you want to empty out what's in your brain, but is it truly mindlessness? Is it mindless scrolling? These are 2 very different concepts, and they all have to do with our mindsets and how we process stress. Woo, I know it very well. I'm a recovering people pleaser, recovering workaholic, all the things. I really measured a lot of productivity in my world up until around the age of 35 by how much I could do or get done or produce. And so much of that was rooted in seeking love when I was a kid and finding love in those ways and being kind of programmed that, oh, okay, this is what makes my family proud. And the thing is, once we are grown adults, I'm a fully grown 41-year-old, it is on us to unpack perhaps the perceptions and misperceptions that we had, not only in our purview of examining our relationships with others, but our relationship with ourselves. And for many, many years, I would say I wasn't in denial. I was completely unaware of my patterns when it came to stress. And mind you, I became a principal at the age of 26 or 27. Had done very well in my teaching career, rose quickly, graduated my undergrad early, all the things. And I made this slide to demonstrate that at the peak of that, after launching 2 high schools, that was me on the right. That was me when I was a superintendent of K-12 schools. And I was probably about a good 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And now keep in mind, 3 years ago, my mother, she's to the left of me there. She passed away 3 years ago. I had similar issues and lots of inflammation in my body. So one of the things for me that I've discovered about myself, and I just wanted to start with a very short snippet and visual for you all, is to really reclaim who I am. And number one, how am I connected to all of these women that you see on the screen who I got to grow up with? And then also, these were some of the most tragic deaths that I have been met with in my life. And I am 40 years old in this picture by the water in Miami. That was my 40th birthday in 2024. And I went on a writing sabbatical after that. And since then, I've been revamping how I conduct my consulting business, Educator Aid, and just revamping even this podcast and what it means to actually learn how to love ourselves well and to see ourselves through the lens of unconditional love. And that is not easy. It's not always easy, especially when we live in a world that is often designed to divide, be destructive, and also to distract from ourselves and thinking, oh, the answer's over here. And you know what? I've found a lot of answers through the years with incredible mentors, great friends, family who are honest. And then on the flip side of that, I've also learned so many lessons from really hateful family, really manipulative people who said they were my friends and they're not, right? So for everything you can look at in your life, it's really important to understand our mindset and how these concepts and these origins of these patterns affect us. For me, unmanaged stress has always shown up as extra weight. That's exactly how it was for my parents. It has also a lot to do with just growing up and loving food. So I've had to redefine through the years multiple times and multiple attempts my relationship with food, what it means to me, and then my relationship with my body and body image. I have a couple other episodes. One is with my hypnotherapist, really incredible talk, but also you learn a lot of my personal story and some traumas, and also how her work with me has helped my weight management and stress management. But secondly, that would be I have one on ancestral heritage and origin story. So all of that is such a big part of who I am in my journey of being more aware of my patterns of stress. So let's get into it, because I really want to give you all this gift that I have been working hard on. And let me not even say hard. I've been working on it, and it's been actually a few years in the making. And so you all are getting this really great tool at the end here, and it's completely free, and just watch to the end, or you can skip to that chapter if you want. I won't tell. Okay, so, but here's the 3 strategies, and I just wanted to lead with that. So you had a little bit of background and honesty from me that for me, my stress pattern, we're going to come back to that word at the end, but that pattern for me is pretty predictable as to what I will go to and what I will gravitate to when I'm in prolonged periods of stress in my life. And sure enough, for me, that can show up in the physical manifestation of inflammation, really tender joints, and extra weight. It's no surprise to me that my knees and ankles have been great when I've been running this summer. So that's because I've dropped about 40 pounds. I don't feel bad saying that. There's no shame in anywhere that you're at. Where you're at is where you're at. But I also say that candidly, that it took me many years to even accept that that was an issue in my life, and to not still be hanging on to maybe what I looked like years ago. And then also to even want to look at myself in the mirror. So I'll link those other 2 resources in case that's your jam and you're like, well, I want to look into my ancestral heritage. How did you resolve that, Justine? Or I want to look into hypnotherapy. What happened for you with that? I'll link those resources for you. But let's get back to this episode for now. And also a shout out to all of our listeners on Spotify, Audible, iHeartRadio, Prime, where else? Apple Podcasts. Thank you. And thank you for the continued reviews. It really helps us out. Make sure you hit subscribe right here on YouTube too, if this is where you're watching this video. Okay, so the first strategy I'm going to give you all for how do you actually have some mindfulness strategies that help you start to become more aware of your stress patterns. And the first strategy is called pause and name. Something that I'm going to tell you the truth. All bets are off. Like, let me throw this microphone. Let me put it all on the table. I'm sharing all this because these are things I actively still embody and practice and implement and also fail at. Okay, so you notice I said positives, and I also said something that you might view as a negative. I don't view failure as negative, but I'm saying that because you got to be okay with the journey of you and accepting you. And I'm preaching to myself right now. So there are times when obviously all of us, we're going to struggle with our reactions. We're going to be stressed and get our brain and our body and things going. And it's going to take us to that place. And we all have that place that we can go sometimes. And then we have triggers and things that happen. For me, my physical body. For you, it might be different. But pause and name. So learn to recognize when physical sensations disrupt our automatic stress reactions. I'll give one example. And to have a mindful approach with sensations, one of the things, and I am still actively working on this, I have really struggled, specifically the first 2 years after my mother passed, with interrupting people and talking over people. And a lot of this I trace, I'm like, you did not used to do this. What are you doing? And I would start to catch myself. And I have accountability buddies who hold me accountable. But I noticed that every time that would happen, if I would have paused and named inside, even just not out loud, but paused and named to myself, I was literally on the brink of starting like I had anxious breathing and I wasn't even breathing how I normally do. So anytime that would happen, it's because then something's caused me to go, and it was always in situations where I didn't want to be misunderstood. I wanted to be sure I was heard. I was afraid of not being heard. I felt like the person wasn't understanding me. And a lot of this actually had to do with childhood wounds, not the people I was interacting with. And I think it's important to name and say that out loud. I think it's important for each of us to name and say it and not have a bunch of shame, because we all have habits and tendencies that can affect others in our world, and that are also like, as we become aware, it's okay to also let people know, I'm working on that and I'm really sorry that I cut you off. And now on the back end, having people that I've specifically told that to and said, make sure you point it out if you hear me do that. Okay. So that's one example of not only being vulnerable and real and honest with ourselves, which can be kind of hard to do, but to also be okay with it and that you're okay and you're going to be okay. Okay. Next strategy, body scan. This comes in like what I was just saying. In many of circumstances, when I look at myself, because that's who I have to look at as an example and to be honest about, because I can only change me, pause and name the sensations to actually disrupt the automatic reaction. So if I don't scan my body before I pause and name, and if I hadn't done that in different circumstances or reflected on a conversation afterwards, I would have no idea or be able to tell you, this is my pattern and this is what I feel happening. Oh, and this may be the reason. I don't know. Either way, let me fix it, okay? Because some stuff is like, okay, at a certain point, I don't need to know the deeper why behind it. I just know it's an issue right now. I don't want it to be an issue, and I'm going to keep working on it actively. So I say that because a lot of these things, they kind of go hand in hand. And it's one of those things like, I can't learn to regulate stress patterns better that I'm not even aware that I'm having. Okay. So it took me a long time to figure this out. I'm telling you, and I'm still a work in progress, but I have put in some significant years to really better understand myself and observe myself. I think you have to start noticing. And that's where breathing and reflecting comes in. So the third strategy are breathwork techniques. This is a large category. And I will say this, we're almost to your goodie. Okay. We're almost to the free to help you. But here's why the free thing will matter. When I started to actually sit and meditate, and when I wanted to start this journey in my early 30s of healing, I had had a health scare when I stepped down from my superintendent role, which that, among many other reasons, urged me to go, okay, figure this out. Of course, replicated some not so great patterns even into my consulting from the past 8 years, but also pivoting and continuing to grow and learn. So that's the truth. That's the reality. But when I started in my early 30s, I started wanting to get more into yoga and meditation. Now, I had done some yoga in my 20s, but I was not real in tune with how to be present with my body. So I kind of looked at it like a social and like, oh, it's a good workout. So in my 30s, very, very different. And also seeking different for myself. So when I'm sharing all this to say, we do not all experience stress the same. So why would we all need the same reflection techniques at various stages of our lives? Now, for some, you might have started meditating at 18 and you're going to do that until you're 98. I don't know. And I do know some people who they grew up meditating and they still meditate every day. It's a practice for them, just like I wake up and stretch. So I think for myself though, that was incredibly difficult to even ask me to sit for like 1 minute and listen to my own breathing. I don't think I would have been able to do it when I first started out. And I wasn't. Like, there were certain practices I couldn't stick to. I would want to, because maybe I was working with a coach or a therapist who had recommended it, But for me and the stress levels I had, and then also being unaware of some of the anxiety, PTSD stuff that I was just starting to deal with, those reflection strategies, those introspective practices, going internally, looking inward, those were not second nature to me. Now, spiritually and being spiritually connected to supernatural, yeah, that since I'm a kid. But to be present with my physical body, to name the sensations, and to actually then sit long enough to implement a breathwork technique to actually get to a mindful pause, then do that body scan, we're just still novice here. Okay, so if I'm in good company, leave me a comment and let's round this out. So we talked about pause and name. Then we looked at body scan, and then finally we rounded out with some breath work. And really, one specific type of breath is just mindful breathing. And for me, I do this a lot because my number one is thinking more before I speak. And not right now, that's a number one thing I'm working on. But let me say practicing. It's not hard work, it's a practice, and I'm devoted to it. So I'm here for it. But that's another thing you'll notice. I'll be very forthcoming about shifting language because that also dictates our mindset a lot. And it's how we speak to ourselves. And are we speaking gently to ourselves? So any type of mindful breathing where you can create a pause to be in tune with your breath is going to be a powerful start to any journey, even if it's only 30 seconds. Okay, so we got our 3 strategies. And the final thing, and I'm going to give you a free goodie, is to notice those patterns. So mindfulness versus just being on autopilot, like a hamster on a wheel, and like, oh, yep, that happened. I said that. Didn't really mean to, but it came out. No, you can control yourself. I can control myself. Maybe we don't always want to, but this is about transforming our stress patterns into actionable insights and needs. If I was not noticing my patterns for my entire 30s, essentially, and trying different practices, some that didn't resonate, many that have, then I wouldn't be able to notice my patterns. So one of the most tricky things to getting to a place of saying, I'm going to implement consistent introspective practices that essentially force me to go inward and examine myself, to know thyself, then it's really, really hard to notice patterns. So when we don't start these little things, and you just start somewhere with where your need is. Maybe it's like, hey, I need 5 minutes to stretch every morning. And then I'm going to practice this breathing thing and see if I can do it for 30 seconds. Okay. And then notice what thoughts are coming up in your mind, what sensations are coming up in your body, and sit with it. You don't have to name everything. You don't have to label everything. You don't have to differentiate or categorize if it's good or bad. I'm using air quotes if you're only listening. But that is our tendency. That's how our brains are wired as humans at this point in human evolution. And so we have tools that we can use to identify these things. So here's what I put together. And again, this has been some years in the making, so I'm really excited for you all to test it out. But I have a short tool. It'll take you about 3 minutes, and it is going to help you on the front end recognize your patterns in how you respond to stress. Okay? So if you can identify some recurring stress moments, then you can actually turn them into these actionable insights to go, right now in my journey. So there's one thing to understand about my design in survey design, okay? How I design surveys from a PhD perspective from my work in my PhD program. I design them so that you are going to get a chance to sit with yourself, not because there's a right or better profile. These are simply to let you know where you're at in that moment. And so the reason why they have the names attached are because of the way I have formulated the questions so that you are honest with yourself when you engage with the tool, but also so you can be redirected to, hey, if your responses indicate that you are the catalyst when it comes to your introspective style, well, and also how you confront stress in your life, I'm going to give you then, depending on your results of this 3 minutes of your time, you are going to get access to actually every single list for each of the three energies. So these are kind of broader energetic labels to help you determine where to start. It doesn't mean that you're always going to be functioning like a catalyst. It doesn't mean you're always going to be like a connector. Many times, and actually right now, I tend to be more an analyzer when I really think about my introspective practices profile, which is what you'll receive if you click below. But I would love to hear your thoughts. Come back, leave comments. You can leave comment on the survey too if you have a good experience. But once you do your reflection, it's 3 minutes, probably less, then you will receive your customized, hey, here's some suggestions for where to get started. And it is for you because I have done some pretty in-depth surveys and research through the years. And I think it's really important to start with first just examining yourself and not just taking a guess, because that can be discouraging. I'm speaking from experiences. It can be discouraging to show up someplace and say, I really want to be part of this. I want to go to this healing circle, or I want to go to this class. And then to feel like that sets you back even maybe like 6 months, because maybe it wasn't the right fit and it wasn't the right experience and you have this terrible experience. So what I do want to encourage you to do is to try things as you feel comfortable, as you feel led, but with a healthy amount of push yourself to seek a new evolution and be honest about what you're ready for. And are you delaying because you're afraid of that next evolution for yourself? Or is it just that you're not willing to put in the work right now? Neither is wrong or bad. It's just you have to be honest with yourself. So don't expect, this is how I explain it. We need to not expect, if we want the work of like, hey, you see people who have put in like 5 years of really devoting to a practice. Don't expect a 12-hour slow roasted oven process to come out of a 3-minute microwave tool. So this gives you a very clear starting point to say, aha, I don't have much time. I don't have much energy. I'm stressed to the max, but here's one thing I can start doing every day. And each of these will result in you getting a list of like 20 strategies suggested for your unique introspective practices profile. I'm going to quit talking your ear off. I'm at about 23 minutes here on Love Learning You. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up for you. I really appreciate all of our subscribers all around the world, over 45 countries. I am so grateful, so grateful. Make sure you hit subscribe on your favorite platform and share this when you find value. Let me know how your introspective practices profile turns out for you. Take care.